What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. Wow. Two robberies back to back. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Chris Arreola won the fight blatantly. I think Chisora won the fight blatantly. But Chris Arreola tonight deserved a draw. Bare minimum. Bare bones minimum was a draw tonight for Chris Arreola. Again, Chris Arreola in round 2, much like Chisora in round 1, scores a knockdown. That puts you on the back foot. And also, to be fair, even more than Chisora, Chris Arreola lit Andy Bummies all the way up in round 3. That could have arguably been a 10-8 round. So, one of them ones. 2 clear rounds. One was a knockdown. Your boy Chris Arreola caressing the side of Andy Bummies' cart for him. Made him hitting that dirty nay. He was hitting it. Hey! Hey! He was hitting it hard. Yeah? Your boy Chris Arreola had Andy Bummies hitting that nay dirty. Not clean. It wasn't a clean version. It was a dirty version of the nay. He was hitting it. And rightly so. Caressed the side of his cart and put him into nay mode. Well, I think it's important to remember as well that, again, Chris Arreola is 40 years old. So on that basis, when you're fighting a 40-year-old man, and Ruiz himself was coming in his recent career best shape, he was, I think 30 pounds lighter than the AJ fight, and 50 pounds lighter than his recent weight. Not to mention, he's now with arguably a better trainer than his last trainer. So all the factors were on Andy Bummies' side. He had the youth, he had his best shape ever, and he's fighting a 40-year-old man who's been stopped before many times. And tonight actually proved that Ruiz is a massive hype job. AJ, on that night, in June 2019, made Ruiz into this superstar that he is not. And again, it's AJ's fault for the reason we're even sitting here today. The reason that Ruiz is on a pay-per-view show is AJ's fault. We never should be sitting here right now. AJ, in December 2019, should have rolled in there and done what needed to be done. Chris Arreola showed AJ up tonight. I hate to break it to you, man. Chris Arreola, he weren't dancing around. Dancing for what? Like I said, why are we dancing from Ruiz for? What for? And if you don't believe me, ask Chris Arreola. He weren't dancing nowhere. He was marching forward. Now, did he? He wasn't Mike Tyson style, but he wasn't dancing. He was in there exchanging. And that's 40-year-old Chris Arreola. Imagine now AJ, who's in my opinion has got a better chin than Arreola. Obviously much more explosive, much more of a devastating inside fighter. And it's simple as that. If Chris Arreola can put Ruiz down and make him hit that dirty nay, AJ would have stopped him. And guess who was saying that? The YB was. No one else wasn't saying that. Everyone else was on the bandwagon. Oh, yes, Rob McCrappen, yes. AJ, run. You can't take Ruiz. Ruiz is too ferocious, YB. YB, you're wrong. YB, you just want to see AJ get knocked out again. No, YB. AJ must run from Ruiz. Ruiz is Mike Tyson 2.0. I said, no, he's a bum. He's no good. He's got no power, and he's chinny. That's what I told you, man. Oh, no. And now what do we see? We see a 40-year-old man upstage AJ. Made him look silly, essentially. Because AJ is, in my opinion, 10 times the athlete of Arreola and 10 times more in prime. And Arreola was able to hold his feet and stay in there with Ruiz. Bob Arum told you, man, the best. We had to get rid of Andy Bummies because he doesn't have any power. He doesn't have any snap. And I wasn't sure. I didn't want to. I was half sure. I told you, man, listen. Go back and watch Andy Ruiz's early fights. He's never stopped. He's never one-banged no one. Ever. Never. 3 months before he fought AJ, he fought Dimitrenko. And he was blunt. Couldn't stop him. And yes, the fight only went 7 rounds, but it wasn't a stoppage. Dimitrenko never left his feet. That's the facts. Now AJ, I don't think people appreciate how bad AJ was on June 2019. As in, how bad his FIFA score was. It wasn't... like how ill he was, essentially, is what I'm saying. How damaged he was. He had some sort of neuro problem, some brain problem, and he was one of them ones. That's what the issue was. He had clear, actual, issues. Some proper brain damage, in my opinion, on that night. And that's what made him severely vulnerable. I think anyone would have put him over. I think if you'd have put him in there literally with anyone. Clearly, because look, Ruiz was in there with Chris Arreola, 40-year-old man, who's been stopped before, and he didn't touch him once. Oh yeah, and by the way, Arreola only had one arm. He had one arm for most of the fight. Ruiz couldn't do nothing with him. Couldn't even rock the dude. My man, and then people were telling me AJ needs to be running around from Ruiz. You joking? If AJ had gone in there with the same mentality, because to be fair to Arreola Arreola wasn't in there Mike Tyson in. He didn't just run forward and go crazy. But what he wasn't doing, he wasn't constantly disengaging. AJ versus Ruiz, all disengage. In fact, much like Pulev versus AJ, all disengage. He'd jab, step out and dance. He'd jab, step out and dance. He'd 1-2, step out and dance. Arreola weren't doing that. Now, I don't think Arreola's got the skill to do that, or he hasn't got the athleticism to do that. But nonetheless, the facts are, a 40-year-old man was able to stay in there and negotiate. And Arreola doesn't have the vicious hooks, the vicious combinations, the vicious uppercuts, the vicious inside shots, the vicious jab as well. Arreola couldn't even jab for this fight. Imagine AJ holding his feet, jabbing his cart in for him, driving it forward, similar to the AJ vs Parker fight, driving it forward and looking what's popping. That's how we box. That's how AJ used to box. We're going to stay in there. Our feet are going to be, yeah, we can take a back step. And that's what Arreola was doing. Yes, it's something like taking a back step is a good defensive move. Disengaging and dancing halfway around the ring, I don't know what that's adding, unless you're fighting Mike Tyson. If you're fighting Mike Tyson from 1986, I get it, why you need to sometimes completely disengage to remove the risk. But Ruiz, who by the way was in much worse shape as well, that's what makes this even more of a travesty. AJ was fighting a Ruiz, 285 pounds, begging to be stopped. Tonight, a 40-year-old Arreola went in there with a prime Ruiz, best trainer possible, best shape ever, or best shape more recently at least. And still, Ruiz, like if Ruiz had any power, yeah, he was going to show it tonight. And I told my Patreon dons that, listen, I told one of them that, in my opinion, given Ruiz's trainer change, given Ruiz's like weight improvement, he should stop Arreola within 6 rounds. Lo and behold, he doesn't do that. In fact, arguably, he lost. Or certainly, in my opinion, it's a draw. This needs to be run back 100%. But on that basis, all of us, man, have given Ruiz way too much credit. And we have to blame AJ's team for that. Because the only reason we've given him credit is because AJ made him look scary. In that rematch, he made him look like oh wow, yeah, look, Ruiz must be really dangerous because AJ is now dancing from him. That's what he's done. He's turned him into a monster. And unfortunately, Arreola's exposed it. Now, if Andy Bumies had done what I thought he was going to do and got Arreola out of there within 6 rounds, that would have justified to an extent AJ's performance, because you could say, well, YB, look, he's smoky. But tonight it proved that it's a massive facade, or whatever you want to call it. Andy Bumies, AJ's made him essentially. AJ needs to tax all of his earnings, 90% tax, because if June hadn't happened and December hadn't happened, we wouldn't be here today. The pay-per-view start is being created, all of AJ's doing. And AJ should have nipped it in the bud in December and exposed him. Because the man coming in 280 pounds, his feet would have been even slower, his hands even slower, and the shots don't do anything. Look, the shots was rattling off. Any shots Ruiz threw, and by the way, again, he's in better shape than he was against AJ in both fights. Any shots he threw, they bounced off of Arreola. And Arreola, I hate to break it to you, man, but Arreola isn't the athlete. He hasn't got a better chin than AJ does. Now, people will sit there and say, well, YB, AJ got stopped by... Yes, but that night, on June 2019, AJ, he had some serious neurological issues. Bottom line. And AJ's admitted as much, which makes it even more baffling. So if you know you was 1 out of 10, why are we treating him like he's Mike Tyson for? AJ's team. They suck. Bottom line. That's the end of it, man. 100%. I'm done with this now. I'm completely done with this topic. 100% done with it. After watching that. Arreola, 40-year-old man, went in there and set pace. And we've got super athletes, once-in-a-generation athletes. How can a 40-year-old man, a 40-year-old washed fighter, no disrespect to him because he's got the heart and he's got the mindset, fair play to him, but this should never be happening. I should never be having to sit here and watch Arreola in there going to work and put Ruiz down and bullied him in the third round. Round 2 and round 3, Arreola bullied him. And if Arreola, who don't have nowhere near the power, the speed, the combinations, the technique on the inside that AJ has, if he can do that, what are we doing here? What is this? What is this? People need to... AJ and his team need to watch that fight and seriously ask questions about what's going on. Because I'm sure there'll be some fans out there who say, oh, well, YB, it was a boxing lesson. Oh, well, AJ gave him a boxing lesson. Yeah, that's what Fury fans said, and we laughed at that. Yeah, when Fury would dance around the place and win on points, we'd say, yeah, he running, he dancing. No one don't care. Now all of a sudden, AJ does it against Ruiz, and all of it. Oh well, no, you see, it's a boxing lesson. It's a boxing lesson. Yeah, but we don't want a boxing lesson. A boxing lesson for AJ's standard. How he set the standard. How I rate AJ. If you want to be a 95 out of 100 FIFA fighter, you have to earn that. And that ain't going... Clearly, from what we saw tonight against Arreola, Ruiz didn't deserve to be in the ring with AJ for 12 rounds in that rematch. Especially after how he won the first fight. He stopped you in the first fight. You owe it to him to beat him in more devastating fashion than he beat you. That's just the bottom line. Never mind, even if he was, that's the thing as well. Even if Ruiz was Mike Tyson 1986, the bottom line is, yeah, that's what you owe to yourself. He beat me like this, I'm going to beat him better. No matter, I don't care who he is. I don't care how great he is or how great he may or may not be. That's the bottom line now. He beat me this way, I'm going to do him worse. That's it. But the fact now that we find that he isn't even as good as we thought he was. And I was one of the people who didn't think he was that great, but I still gave him way too much credit. Thinking, you know what, yeah, I can kind of see why you need to dance. Now I don't see it at all. Now it's been the veil has been completely exposed. Ruiz was in the best shape of his life, no doubt about it, 100%, and he got butter hands. He can't punch. And it took a 40-year-old man who's half finished to go in there and show that. That should never have been the case. But fair play to Arreola because, listen, he was in there. But the shots weren't even that hard, that's the thing. He was just touching him. And Ruiz was hitting a stanky. Hitting that dirty nene. But you have to be in it, that's the thing, you have to be in it to win it. You don't know. Unfortunately, AJ never, in his Ruiz rematch, he never actually held his feet at all to know that Ruiz was ready to go. You understand? He never let any real shots off. It was all jab, dance, 1-2 dance. There was no real big bangers in there, hooks. And it seems to be that Ruiz is most vulnerable to the hook on the side of his clat. Because that's the shot, I'm pretty sure that the one that Arreola caught him with was on the side of his barnet. And it sent him hitting that dirty nene. Hey, that's what he was hitting, man. Hitting it hard as well. Fair play to the guy, man. He needs to join. What Ruiz needs to do now is, what Andy Bumiz needs to do is, he needs to join one of them dance groups because he was hitting it. He was hitting it hard. Fair play to the guy, man. I didn't know. I've never seen such a big guy hit that nene so good. He was dropping low as well, wasn't he? He was dropping it low. Fair play to the guy, man. Like I said, I've never seen a big guy hit that nene so smoothly. He was hitting it nice. So I give him full credit. I don't know what him and his team have been doing, but they've been practicing them dance moves. He was fluid with it. He was going real low. Dropping it real low, he was. But yeah, anyway, listen. More technically speaking, like I said, I don't know how you give Ruiz the win by 5 rounds like some next ref did. Just the refs are completely bought in this game. So, this robbery is going on all over the place. But given that Arreola was 40 years old, given that Ruiz was in the best shape of his career, this was a draw tonight. Yeah, a draw. At best. If anything, I think Arreola won it. Truth be known. Given how he got a point up in... Like, he got a point up in round 2, he dominated round 3, you've got to show me something. Oh yeah, and by the way, his arm was dodgy. His arm would pretty much come out of the socket, which, like, you fight him with one arm. How can you not do something? How could Ruiz not do something with a man who's fighting with one arm for the last 3 rounds? Nah, I'm sorry. That's a draw. If there was ever a fight that was a draw, it's that fight. And I rate Arreola because, given how much respect AJ showed Ruiz, way too much in my opinion, but given how much respect AJ showed Ruiz, Arreola could have gone into that fight and thought, you know what? Wow. AJ respected this guy. I'm going to be on my P's and Q's tonight. Did he do that? No. He said, I couldn't give a flying F about who this guy may or may not have been and what this guy may or may not have done. I'm going in there and I'm going to do my thing. And he did. And he showed that Ruiz is a bit chinny, which is the facts. He's a bit chinny. He gets caught with anything. Like, Arreola isn't known as someone who's got the one bang. In fact, he's not really known as a banger at all. And if you just look at his technique, Arreola's technique, he's not leveraging shots. In a way, I'm surprised that Ruiz really went over that easy. But I think, to be fair to AJ, part of that is the AJ curse. I've told you, man, before, but after AJ pops someone's cherry, they ain't never the same again. That's the truth of it, honestly. Dillian White, rock solid kickboxing chin. AJ pops his cherry. People, Povetkin finish as you like, bowls him over, flat. Pick anyone you want. Pick anyone you want. AJ touches them, and they ain't never the same again. Yeah, no doubt. I'm trying to think of other examples, but oh yeah, that's it. Dominic Brazil, Bumzeel. AJ touches him, and he falls over against Wilder. There's a whole bag of examples. Povetkin himself. Povetkin goes in there, rock solid chin. Now he can't take a shot. So, anyway, I do think potentially that's part of play here. What's happened to Ruiz? Ruiz had a cast iron chin. AJ popped the cherry, and then he balling over now. He's full, like when AJ hit him with a fully leveraged shot. Tonight against Arreola's technique, he doesn't leverage any of his shots. You don't see him really twisting his hips. They're all just more or less arm punches. But even so, they put Ruiz down, which makes it even more frustrating. That imagine if AJ had gone in there and just tried to work a little bit against Ruiz. I mean, I'm not even saying the full fight. For the first 6 rounds, it was clear AJ won every round, yeah? At that point, a good trainer would have said, a Hall of Famer trainer would have said, you know what, AJ, we're up 6 rounds. Let's start building now. Let's start, you know what I mean? Let's start going to work. We know he's out of shape. We know he hasn't trained. Let's start punishing this dude now. That's what they could have done. And knowing what we know now about Ruiz, AJ likely would have stopped Ruiz in the last 6 rounds. Instead, the fight finished and Ruiz was egging it on, saying, come on, let's fight. That should have never been the case. AJ should have worked the dude. 100%. And I think if he had done that, I think if his training team had known what they was doing and encouraged it, and that's what great trainers do. Great trainers know how great their athlete is. They know their opponent inside and out as well, and they know what needs to be done. A great trainer would have said, AJ, I know how great you are. There's no way this man going 12 rounds with us tonight. And on that basis, after we've dominated the first 6 rounds as easy as we did, we need to start now really planting our feet occasionally and then start building. That's all that needed to happen. Didn't happen. Rob McCracken is a one-gear trainer. So all you ever hear him say, one gear. He never change it up. We've seen the greats. We know what the greats say. Get this guy out of there. What's his name? Manny Stewart. There's been other trainers as well. In fact, even Okoli and Okoli and Shane McGuigan against Glowowski. This guy's ready to go. Where was that? Where is it ever that? Even in the Pulev fight, AJ got him out of there, not because McCracken told him to, but because AJ just naturally how the things went. I've never heard McCracken say, let's get this guy. This guy's done. Because McCracken, he's happy to sit back and just let things, I don't know what it is. Anyway, Arreola won. Arreola's the true champion tonight, and people was booing Andy Ruiz, rightly so. Because Andy Ruiz, you got a pay-per-view show, and you've got a lot of clout for what you allegedly did, but you ain't backed it up once yet. Because you beat AJ allegedly, and then you came back in the rematch out of shape, and people still gave you a chance. Oh well, he's out of shape. Oh well, he's got mental problems and typical stuff. And now you've come back, and it's not even your fault. It's not your fault that you ain't that good. It's not your fault that you got pillow fists. And I can't even lie. He looks good on the pads. I thought he looks like he can bang. I don't know what the problem is, but he can't bang. Simple as that. He can't. He's a pad fighter. Andy Ruiz is a pad. Like sometimes we've got gym fighters. Yeah, gym fighters are good fighters who look good in sparring but can't fight in a real fight. Andy Ruiz isn't a gym fighter, he's a pad fighter. He looks wicked on the bag, wicked on the pads, and that's it. He can't, you don't translate it. It don't make no sense, but he just don't. I don't know what it is, like pity patty. Because Arreola didn't give 2 Fs about his shots at all. So yeah, Arreola's the true champion tonight. Andy Ruiz got booed, rightly so. You shouldn't be going there going 50-50, life and death with Arreola. But Arreola is the true champ tonight. Fair play to the guy. Hats off to him. Full credit to me. His mentality, his grit, mentality is 10 out of 10. That was a legendary mentality tonight. Because it would have been a lot easier. Many other men would have thought, you know what? This guy's dangerous, and this guy did this, and this guy did that. I'm just going to, whatever. No, he turned up to win. He turned up believing he was the best, despite being 40 years old. I have to rate that. Because there's many people younger than him, many people less able than him, many people more able than him, younger than him, who went, for whatever reason, giving Ruiz way too much respect. So hats off to Arreola tonight, 100%. He the champ.